Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Wow, got really quiet. Thank you so much for coming. Feel free to get coffee and breakfast this morning. My name is Davida Johnson. I'm the Director of Community Partnership Programs here at UCLA, the Office of Information Technology, and I'm very, very happy to welcome you here this morning to the 2016 Advancing Women in Tech Conference. Thank you so much. We are looking forward to a wonderful, wonderful day. We have a great lineup of speakers and panelists and topics to really dive into the gender gap and in technology, the gender and minority gap in technology. So feel free to network with the people around you. We really are excited about today and having you here today. So thank you very, very much. I'm one of 3 co-chairs for this conference, among the many, many, many other people who you will get to meet later or will introduce them to you. We are very excited today. Stephanie Pikewitz, who is probably running around as one of the other co-chairs, as well as Jemie Sekou, who we could not have done this conference without both of them. And so I'd like to invite Jemie up to the stage for our welcome. Thank you, Jemie.
Thank you.
So we're going to just start off with just really welcoming you and giving you an introduction of the conference and why we put this conference on. And we're excited. Again, we're very, very excited today. Thank you. So, Jemie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Good morning. My name is Jemie Sekou. I've held a couple of executive roles in tech and digital. Also serve as an advisor for a couple of tech companies as well as a fund. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I think before we start off, we wanted just to poll the room and kind of see who's all in the room. So, with that said, I think we want to pull up some of the polling questions.
Right. We're going to pull up the first polling question.
And maybe, Davida, you can give some instructions around that.
Yep. So you will see polls come up on the screen with instructions on. Have you used Poll Everywhere before? Okay. The instructions should be on your screen of how you can respond, how you can participate.
And there's Wi-Fi available. It's UCLA Web.
Right. Yes.
And it should automatically connect you.
Right. So we're a little awkward here and we can't see
So the first question, as you're pulling it up, how well do you feel your organization is addressing the gender gap? And there you'll see your selection. So go ahead and take a moment to enter that in. We'll give you guys maybe 30 seconds or so. And we really appreciate your participation because I think the School of Luskin is here too, and they're going to collect the data, and after the conference, they're going to include that in some sort of report, right?
Well, we'll definitely, with the OIT, we'll put a report together, which is what's going to be very, very helpful. The Luskin Centers put together this very detailed report, which is actually on our website. The link to it is on our website, and they did a lot of research in this area. And if you came to the conference last year, then you will have known some of the topics that were discussed last year, and we're really just building on that this year.
Okay. So could be better. Wow, 58%. Okay, well, on to the next question. Do you ever feel mistreated or undervalued because of your gender or ethnicity? So enter your choices. Wow, 45% around gender. Okay, I think we have one last one, right? What's the worst situation you've ever had to deal with professionally because of your gender?
The men can answer this too.
Yes. Do we have the options pulled up as well for that?
Well,
Oh, this is a word cloud.
You can put the word in, and
Right.
any words in there.
So whatever word comes to mind, go ahead and enter that in.
And no spaces. The words will come up separately if you put spaces in there.
A lot of good information.
Valerie.
So maybe while they wrap up, Davida, perhaps we can kind of share with them our respective backgrounds.
Right. Yes. So we had different paths to technology, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yes. I want to talk a little bit about my path to technology because my path was actually pretty smooth and direct. I've always loved math and science, and during the time where computers were first becoming popular, my mother got a computer, and she actually taught me how to use a computer. She taught me how to load DOS, and if some of you probably have never heard of that. And other stuff on it, Microsoft, all the Microsoft products. And I just grew, there was an interest in technology that just was growing in me. And so I remember getting to the 11th grade and my mother asked me, what do you want to do in life? And I said, I want to be an engineer. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, you should go to MIT. And I said, what's MIT? And she said, go look it up. And again, that was during the time where you couldn't ask Alexa, what is MIT? I had to go look it up in an encyclopedia and just do my own research about it. And I started to really just grow an interest in engineering and some of the programs that were available there. And so I decided to apply. I got accepted. I went, had an amazing experience there, and I ended up graduating from MIT years ago. And getting a degree in computer science and creative writing. So that was a little, not quite the engineering background, but I love it. And from there, I just started working in tech. And I've been passionate about tech ever since. I've worked for Accenture, I've worked for Warner Brothers, I've done project management, I've done software development, and just tech has always been very, very passionate for me.
Well, mine's quite the opposite, right? So my background came from a single-parent family. Single-parent mom was, the oldest of two. I have two younger brothers. So growing up, it was really around just surviving, right? Mm-hmm. And so, teaching myself how to use the computer all the way to getting myself into college and applying for financial aid and figuring that whole process out. And then going to college really not knowing what I wanted to do, right? So I ended up essentially, covering my entire basis, double majoring in international studies, sociology, and minor in business management. And then after that, coming from an Asian family, you're taught you're gonna either become a doctor or an attorney, and I really couldn't stand the sight of blood. So I was like, well, you know what, I'll just become an attorney, and actually took the LSATs, applied for law school, and before I slapped that stamp on that application envelope, I hesitated, and I questioned why I hesitated. And so I figured, you know what, why not just go work for the best and find out for myself what it's really about? Mm-hmm. So I worked out at O'Melveny & Myers, which I didn't realize was like kind of a cool thing right after college, and that doesn't really happen. Realized that was like nothing I wanted to do, and so I sort of found myself in a path where it literally zigzagged between the public and private sector. Mm-hmm. So I've carried many different roles from sales and business development and logistics and supply chain to helping run Boys and Girls Clubs of America on a national level. And then ultimately ending up in a head of marketing and technology role at a management consulting firm, providing strategies for IT and tech for Fortune 500 companies and working with various senior executives. So it's an untraditional path, certainly not from the IT world at all, but ended up crossing paths with you.
Yep. So tech does that. You really do cross. It reaches every little thing that you do, whether it's something in your job or your personal life. And I think everyone here probably has a very different experience in how they ended up in technology as well. So the next thing I want to talk about, Jemie, is really our goals for the conference and what we hope that the people here will achieve and learn and take away from the conference. And one of the things that it's very important to me is to understand, why is diversity so difficult? Why is it so hard? And is it really that hard? Or what are the things that are stopping us from really reaching the point of having a diverse workforce, and the things that are holding women back in achieving, really just leadership areas, positions, and really being passionate and wanting to stay in technology. And actually, I have a few slides that I'd like to if you pull that other up. And I'm going to get up because I actually cannot read behind me. Okay. Oops. Okay, so this was a quote that was given from the Native Work Institute, and if you can see it on both of the screens, it talks about the high attrition rate for women in tech, and it says despite employee incentives, I think a lot of our companies are given incentives now, flexibility, flexible schedules for technology, but women are still leaving at twice the rate as men are in tech, and we really want to discover why that is today. And the Native Work Institute mapped out some of those reasons: 30% working conditions, 27% work-life integration, wanting more time with your family, 22% you just didn't like the work, it wasn't something that moved you or motivated you. And we're finding that technology for women really want to have a purpose in what they're doing. And so technology, if there's no purpose behind it, you tend to not want to you're not interested in it. And then organizational climate, 17% didn't like the culture or your boss or your coworkers. So we're really finding out why women are leaving. We haven't gotten to the point where we're actually resolving that issue. This is another interesting study that the Kellogg School of Business did at Northwestern University. They did a study on diversity in decision making. They put together a group of people who knew each other, and then they added a newcomer to that group, and they observed what happened. And what they observed was that while the homogeneous groups felt more confident in their performance and group interactions, that it was the diverse groups that were more successful in completing their tasks. Another thing that they noticed was that in diverse settings, people tend to view conversations in diverse settings as breeding conflict. So they're not as comfortable with people who are not like them. And so that pulls out some conflict there. They're not comfortable with that. And what that does is it blinds you to what diversity can actually provide for you. And then it blinds you to that, and then those new ideas cannot emerge from those conversations, from those strategy sessions. And so that's part of the problem, that you're just not comfortable with people who are like you. And that breeds a lack of diversity or a lack of wanting diversity in your life. Okay. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, and for those of us in the corporate sector, oftentimes we wonder, okay, at the end of the day, what is the ROI, right? And why is this so important around this topic of diversity and gender inclusion? And a Catalyst study found that companies with more female board directors outperform those with the least on a return on capital investment by 66%, a return on sales by 42%, and on return on equity by 53%. So really, really compelling numbers there. And then also, team-based assessments of inclusive teams show 80% better results, right? Davida alluded to that in her previous slides. And then this one, okay, yeah. Inclusive talent systems as talent strategy best predict the highest performing companies. And that was a study based out of Deloitte. And then obviously, a lot of various facts around that, around inclusion with women and diversity, making companies smarter, more profitable, outperforming their competition. There's compelling ROI. There's more innovation that comes out, in this very competitive landscape. There's a lot of conversation around digital transformation with a lot of, especially among, the Fortune 500 companies. More productive, it enhances customer loyalty, and ultimately affects financial growth. So, it's interesting because, oftentimes, sitting in a place of leadership and in a role in the various, executive teams that I've been a part of, oftentimes I find myself as one of the only women in the room. Or I go to conferences, tech conferences, where oftentimes, there's like a sprinkling of us. And so, I find that oftentimes companies, they want diversity and they say that, and they also, seek that because they want fresh and new perspectives. But I think in my experiences, oftentimes they ask for that, but, there's environments where oftentimes you're met with, a very legacy mindset, right? And so there's a lot of struggle and challenges around, fitting in that culture and creating and figuring out how to get, your goals met and, perform. And at the same time, figuring out the dynamics of the various teams that you have to work with, creating that groundswell, creating that buy-in, knowing who to talk to within the, the C-suite level of, getting, support from them and getting respective buy-in so you can actually, meet your goals, right?
Yeah. And one of the other things too that's really important that I'd like for people to get out of today is building your network. It's so important to have a strong network of people around you, especially women helping women. And I will say that although I had a very direct path into technology, I didn't find a lot of female mentors along the way. There's that sense of competition and within my environment, and it was very disheartening actually. A lot for myself, a lot of my support came from my male counterparts in leadership. And until, I would say very recently, within the last few years, where I've been able to meet some very awesome, wonderful women in technology who are going through the same things that I'm going through. And it is so important to have a network of people who help you to grow within tech. Because of the gender gap issues, because of the minority gap issues, you really want people who've been there and who can help you along the way. So that's definitely one of the things that I really want people to get out of. So as you're meeting people, this is an opportunity to start to build your network as well.
Yeah, and I think Sheryl Sandberg recently said, women need to champion for each other in the workplace, and it's time, and it's really important. I think oftentimes, the different males that I've interacted with has said, women can't work together. They just can't, and I think we really have to each of us have to own that and be accountable to that and be that shining example to show them that it is possible. Yeah. And when we are able to work together, really extraordinary things happen out of that. Yeah. My motivation in agreeing to chair this conference was out of the sheer frustration and feeling of loneliness in environments where oftentimes I am the only woman. And, you know, I also have experienced environments where it has been very misogynistic, where men themselves don't really recognize their own behavior, right? And I'll give you a quick example. There was one time when, you know, I had brought in a client and, you know, I was asked to sit out of that client meeting because, you know, the male partners felt like it would make that male client uncomfortable and it would change the dynamic of the meeting. And so, you know, it's just, those things
That
are
was
just
recent.
yeah. Well, we won't
Wasn't
say any
this-
names there, but yeah, I think having that network, you know, back to what you were saying, is really key. Being selective of who you surround yourself with, you know, owning who you are, being authentically true to who you are, and then also being able to attract the like-minded.
Right.
And I think is really key.
For sure, definitely.
And I think it's also getting over the fear of, you know, like, I think once you put in all the effort you can in certain environments and you've tried every single way to make it work, I think it's okay to also recognize that, you know what, maybe this is not the right place for me. And it's getting over the fear of, like, the reality of, hey, I gotta pay the bills, you know, I have children to support, I have a mortgage and whatnot, but knowing that, you know, you have to be happy at the end of the day. Yeah. And there is a group out there, there is like-minded folks out there who will welcome you with open arms, who will value your strengths and your talents. And certainly that has been, you know, my personal experience.
Yeah. And you talked just briefly on legacy mindset, that you really have to be in a position of continuous learning. Technology is always changing, things are always changing. And you always really want to be learning what's next, and so that you don't become invaluable where you are, and so that you can, if you're not stuck, basically, you're able to see your options and see your to see where you're going in life, and to see all the opportunities that you have. So I think it's, you know, that continuous learning is just very, very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, I'm so encouraged by seeing the sheer number of men in the room. So thank you all for coming out and supporting. You know, I have a personal philosophy that behind every strong man stands a strong woman, and behind a strong woman stands an even stronger man. So it's really encouraging to see that. When I was asked to be chair, I was very adamant about diversifying, you know, the conference, not only from a panel perspective, but those that are participating in the conference, because I didn't want another feminist conference at the end of the day, right? I think it's really important to have men at the table, to hear what's going on, to be a part of the dialogue, and to be able to take that back, for everyone to take that back to their respective workplace. So I think that's really key.
Absolutely.
And Davida, do you have anything to add to that?
I agree. I mean, each year it gets better. We worked last year with the Luskin Center of Innovation. They led the conference last year, and that was part of what they were doing. And we reached out to men as well. We have men on the panels today, and I mean, even there, you may be thinking, where are the men? You know, but they're out there. We see them, and there are a lot more men actually this year, and we were very happy that the men wanted to participate and support the initiative, and it's so important to have that working group with them, you know, to partner with them. So we're very, very excited to have you here too.
Yeah, and one of which we have Jonah Peretti, who's the founder and CEO of HuffPost and BuzzFeed, who's a big champion around diversity and inclusion. And so we're really, really excited and looking forward to having him here. I think another thing I wanted to just also emphasize as we're talking about network is kind of going one layer, you know, deeper. And it's around this concept of a personal board of directors. And what do I mean by that, right? It's, you know, having folks that are people that inspire you, that you are, you know, that you really look towards in terms of helping you guide you down that path to success. And, you know, I think regardless of where you are today, like somebody had to believe in you, right? And to help you to get to where you are today. And so this concept of this having this personal board of directors, I mean, companies have board of directors, so why shouldn't we have our own? And I really, this concept was really affirmed by one of my PBDODs, Rochelle Parham, who was recently the chief marketing officer over at eBay, you know, one of the only women, minorities to hold a Fortune 500 C-suite position. I have Don Ralph, who's the CEO and second command over at the Capital Group, a billion-dollar financial company that I've nurtured because of, you know, meeting him at O'Melveny when I was this, like, you know, little young chicken out of college, and he really took me under his wing. And so I think those people are really important to have in your life and to cultivate those relationships because, you know, as much as I think what success is, it's those people that help propel you beyond what you think is possible. So I think that's really important. And obviously those people are really busy, right? So you really want to be mindful of their time and bring value to them. It's a two-way street. And so you're going to be able to meet a lot of those folks today. And I think oftentimes, you know, and this is for those of you that are, you know, just starting out in your career is, you know, being mindful of their time and being valuable to them. What do I mean by that is, you know, they get bombarded 100 times a day to have them mentor somebody, right? And I think what's really important and what I've observed is, you know, really coming from the place of how do I serve you? Right, because oftentimes it's like like these, you know, younger professionals saying, "Oh, this is what you can do for me," and I see that with even startup founders, right? Like they go pitch an investor and they're like, "Oh, you know, we're doing this and this," and they get caught up in their own context, in their own reality. But I think it's really important to see, you know, from the other person's perspective of what is interesting for them and what resonates for them and what kind of value you can bring for them. Yeah. So I think that's really important.
Right. So as we start this conference, I would like to thank our platinum sponsor, Box. They're here today. UCLA uses Box like crazy. And if you haven't used Box or don't know it within your organization, they will have a table upstairs. There will be people to talk with here from Box. We're very appreciative of their sponsorship. We could not have done this conference without them. We also have our silver sponsors. We have Google here. Google has sponsored us, FireEye, Tata, Consultancy Services, which, by the way, employs a 40%, I think it's 40% women in their workforce. And they're one of the largest providers of talent. They have more than 600,000 employees, actually. UCLA Anderson is also a partner with us and a supporter, and UCLA Extension. And again, they will have tables upstairs. Please visit them. They are a huge part of this conference, and we want to thank them. I also want to thank our organizing committee, our advisory committee, all of our OIT staff and tech support, and there's so many people to thank today. But we want to get started, so I believe the first man is in the house,
yes,
right?
Yes, the man of the hour. So before I introduce him, I just wanted to also point out that please engage with us on Twitter. Our hashtag is UCLAWIT. Our teams are on standby to interact with you, and if you have any questions too, feel free to tweet us on that hashtag. And without further ado, most recently, Peter Marks served as the Chief Technology Officer for the City of Los Angeles. And he was also appointed by Mayor Eric Garcetti. He's held various senior leadership roles and a VP role over at Qualcomm Labs, Mattel, Universal Studios, and Peter now is the Executive Director and Evangelist Predix over at GE Digital. So please join me in welcoming Peter Marks.